1927, at the 5th Solvay Conference on Physics in Brussels, Belgium, a new proposal of mind over matter was admitted to try to resolve inexplicable behaviors on quantum mechanics. With the greatest minds in physics attending, such as Einstein, Pauli, Dirac, Bohr, Heisenberg, Curie, de Broglie, Schrödinger, just to name a few, the subject of consciousness and the atomic world was at hand. Heisenberg and Bohr approached Einstein with a new theory that the minds of the researchers were affecting the results of the experiments. The mathematics of predictability were not repeatable and reliable enough to explain what was happening. Einstein could not accept this at first because it violated all mathematical models. Years later, he admitted it was happening. Einstein said, "Anyone who becomes seriously involved in the pursuit of science becomes convinced that there is a spirit manifest in the laws of the universe, a spirit vastly superior to that of man." A spirit is not a mechanical force like gravity, electromagnetism, or the strong and the weak forces. A spirit is consciousness. So for Einstein to have made this great transformation can only mean that something convinced him that it was really happening, that the universe is alive, and we are part of it. Did great powers hide the truth about what was discovered at the conference because they knew they could not control us if we knew the secret powers of our minds and collective consciousness? All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force. We must assume behind this force is the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter. Max Planck, the father of quantum physics. The secret of mind over matter was known 18 years before the first atomic blast at Trinity Site, New Mexico, July 22, 1945.
Our current science cannot handle consciousness. Although some people like to say quantum physics can explain consciousness, the fact of the matter is that physics cannot deal with an experiment where a human being is involved in the loop. This goes back to the way quantum physics was originally built back in the 19-teens and 20s and 30s. Whenever there's a conscious observer present, he causes a collapse of the wave function. Now, the wave function is a mathematical construct that describes the waviness of probabilities of events at the quantum level. And quantum physics is a set of equations that describe how this wave function behaves. When an observer looks at an experiment, he causes a collapse of this wave function. He destroys information. It basically starts the wave function from zero, and things have to start up again. So an observer right now has a chaotic effect in trying to describe or explain what goes on when a person is in the loop. Currently, our physics right now is incomplete. We cannot deal with a consciousness affecting other physical objects in an experiment. We just don't know how to deal with it. So what you find is that most physics experiments keep observers out of the loop. They'll put a scientist outside the box. He gets to look in maybe at the end to see what the results were. But because his consciousness collapses the wave function, they don't let him in. It's like a bull in a china shop. He messes up their predictions, and they don't know how to deal with it.
We live in a world today where there's a hierarchy of power. There are very powerful people, and there are people with virtually no power at all. What's very important from a biological understanding is every human being is equally powerful in their creative ability to shape the planet. And then you say, well, if everybody is equally powerful, then how did other people gain so much more power? And here's the joke. They didn't gain any power. The reason they became more powerful is they took away the power from us. and that the evolution that we're experiencing right now is to recover that power, because when the entire population is possessing such power, there's more of a likely better resolution and harmony than a world today where only few people are exercising that power. And I really look forward to that evolution when we recover the power we've always had, which means going back and reprogramming our belief systems to own how powerful we are.
Human intention can significantly influence the properties of materials and the nature of reality.
As early as 1957, Professor Hans Eysenck, then chairman of the psychology department at the University of London, wrote a letter insinuating that there was a gigantic conspiracy involving some 30 major universities all over the world and hundreds of highly respected scientists to silence the truth about what we knew about the powers of human consciousness. After the United States Congress had access to the data from the Stanford Research Institute and from universities all over the country and all over the world, they were terrified of what would happen if we all developed the powers of our minds. It was clear that we could remote view, we could see into the future and into the past, we could find, missing airplanes and anything you can imagine with our minds. And they actually did a smear campaign with the media to discredit what they had discovered, because they didn't want us to know how powerful our minds really are. What is the language of quantum communication? How does the universe communicate from subatomic particles, wavelets, superstrings, atoms, planets, to stars, galaxies, and all living beings? Is there a communicative symphony happening all the time that remains invisible to our current technology and awareness? What if we understood its secret? Oh my God, we would know how to talk to the Creator, nature, science, and each other, and interstellar civilizations. Are we in communication before we meet in person? How do we as human beings communicate with each other? How do we find our true love, life partners, our soul matches, our families, business partners, our careers, teachers, and life purpose? And how do we find God?
Hey, what's going on? I'm leaving you a message. I'm really starting to get worried that you haven't called me back. And I guess, you're not leaving me much of a choice. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I've been needing to tell you via voicemail, even though it makes me very uncomfortable to do that.
Yeah, heart disease, the body is not a separate entity, all its different parts just acting alone. There's a mind-body interaction that has a lot to do with the development of disease in general.
I just wanted to let you know that I can barely live without you. I was paralyzed a couple of days ago, and I don't know, I've never really had the courage to tell you that you're the one for me and I can't live without you.
Stress on the brain will cause output of energy into the body that affects all your organs. It seems that some people have the propensity to discharge brain stress into various parts of their body, and certain people channel their distress into usually one place. It's really ironic. Some people get back pain from stress. Some people get chest pains from stress. Some people get ulcers from stress. Some people get upper neck and headaches from stress. This is all channeled energy and distress from the brain going to various parts of the body and manifesting as physical findings and signs from essentially brain stress being channeled elsewhere, because the brain, I think, has only a certain capacity to hold on to nervous energy, then it has to discharge it into the body. So there's a definite mind-body connection. A lot of people channel their stress into their heart, and we know that stress and adrenaline that's produced by stress goes into the heart and can affect the heart in an adverse way that can create abnormal heart rhythms, spasm of the arteries of the heart, and clogging up of the arteries of the heart due to adrenaline causing platelets, which are the blood clotting material in the body, to coagulate. Adrenaline does all that, and in addition to spasm of the arteries.
You see, the heart is an electrical organ. It produces by far the strongest source of bioelectricity in our body, up to 40 to 60 times stronger than the second most powerful source, which is the brain. This electrical energy travels through every single cell in our body and, in a sense, kind of binds the cells together. It's strong enough that it even can be detected outside the body, out into space, beyond the skin. It's not an aura that we're measuring when we do this, or anything like subtle energy. What it is very measurable electromagnetic energy, much like radio waves. And what we found is that the heart produces an electromagnetic field that surrounds our entire body in 360 degrees. And then it can be detected about 3 to 4 feet with magnetometers outside the body. Researchers at the Menninger Clinic in Kansas say they've detected it 10 to 12 feet. So regardless of how far it goes, what's interesting is that we produce this electromagnetic field that can be detected. It can be measured with sensitive mainstream medical equipment.
The human nervous system is an electrical energy system where positive and negative ions flow. We can even measure the surface electrical activity of the body at the fingertips using a simple voltage meter in the millivolt setting. Most human beings have far less than 1 volt total, regardless of where we measure along the body. The numbers oscillate due to the numerous electrical pulses in our nervous system. Testing hundreds of individuals, our study has shown that everyone has different voltages at different moments in their lives. Children tend to test around 1/4 of a volt, while adults can range anywhere between 0.5 and 31/100ths of a volt. If we are less than a 1.5 volt battery, how can we broadcast a powerful energy signature? And how can we hear a message that is meant for us?
The greatest mind control experiment the government ever did on us is tell us that our minds are not powerful. In the year 2009, I conducted hundreds of voltmeter tests on the human nervous system from age groups from, literally children to teenagers to middle years and to elderly years. I found that all human beings have different millivolt ranges in their nervous system. Our nervous system runs positive and negative ions throughout our body, through our hands and our feet and our chest. Our entire body is being energized by the central nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. People who have medical conditions such as severe depression or nervous system disorders such as MS have millivolt ranges that go between somewhere around 5 and maybe 9 millivolts. Now, to give you a comparison, the average person ranges between 50 or maybe even 30 and 100 millivolts. That's the average person in the average state of consciousness. A millivolt is 1/1000th of a volt. So our body is running between maybe 30 and 100 millivolts optimally. That's when we're really in our optimal range. If there was a way to raise the human body voltage, which is the electricity in our nervous system, to higher levels. That super athletes train to get their nervous systems up to 2 full volts per cell, which is 2,000 millivolts. What will happen to our consciousness? Will it be easier for us to project our thoughts to cooperatively affect our reality? Will it be easier for us to apply a stronger signal to the law of attraction? Think of a radio. You know, you're trying to listen to your favorite song on the radio, and you can barely hear it because your radio doesn't have enough power. Well, your body is like a radio transmitter receiver. If you don't have enough energy in your system and you're trying to send thoughts out into the universe to cooperatively affect your reality, to attract your soulmate, to attract a business idea, to become more creative, and you don't have enough power in your nervous system, the chances of you manifesting your reality the way you want it to be are going to be much lower. So you need to increase your energy levels first, which you can do by meditation, and you can also do by using, technologies like we're talking about here.
Doing a simple experiment, when we get a weak signal on the radio and we place our hands on the antenna, the signal mysteriously improves. This is scientific proof that we are likened to an antenna that receives messages from the beyond. Our future soul match might be trying to broadcast us a message, but if we are not tuned, we will not hear what they are trying to tell us. You either need more power or a more finely tuned radio. Did the ancient stone builders know the secret healing powers of spiritual vibration stone technology? Did they know that stones and crystals could hold memory?
At the University of California at Stanford in 1993, scientists were able to store a movie of a hummingbird in 3 dimensions and a separate movie of the Mona Lisa painting inside of a crystal and get it to stay there. If that sounds impossible to you, this is an ordinary sheet of plastic. It's called a DVD. And all it is plastic with a mirror shiny coating on the bottom. A laser bounces through that sheet of plastic, bounces off the mirror coating on the bottom, and sends back the information, a movie, a song, your computer files, whatever you want to store in it, to retrieve it so that you can see pictures, you can hear songs, you can hear voices, and you can see photographs and all of your data files in ordinary plastic. Now I'll give you an example here of what we have. This is stone technology. It's in the same shape as the universe, which is a toroid. It's actually the same shape as the Earth's magnetic field and the same shape as the human eye and the iris. And what we do is we send these stone pendants, which you can wear around your neck and hold in your hands. We send them into a series of 5 quantum energy generators, and we charge them with tachyon energy, which is faster than light energy. And the frequency vibrations of the tree of life and the frequency vibration of the NASA actual sound of the sun. So basically, like little miniature hard drives, we found a way to trap, just like a DVD does, traps a movie or a song. We can trap the healing vibrations of the universe in a stone. Then what we did is we tested people. Hundreds and hundreds of people were tested, wearing the pendant, holding it with the left and the right fingers. And we could clearly find, within seconds, the human body voltage would come to much higher levels.
While these amazing stone pendants can raise your vibration, scientifically demonstrated, could this increased energy be applied to broadcasting our thoughts and true intentions, giving us a stronger signal?
Super athletes and psychics and healers and telepaths have much higher body voltage than the average person.
Dr. William Tiller conducted human voltage studies on human beings who were Qigong masters or healers, demonstrating extrasensory abilities.
50 to 100 millivolts is natural. If you put electrodes on the ear, which is a norm for the body in physiological tests, then you're talking about a few millivolts. But if you're working with a healer, as we did some experiments, copper wall experiments with Elmer Green and I did this back in the 70s, then the healer, you can measure body voltages on the walls, and we found that a healer could increase the body voltage on a wall, reflected, of course, from the body or received by transmission from the body, 25 volts, 50 volts, 100 volts, 250 volts. We have been able to get signatures of that size. And basically I was very interested in that, and I created a theoretical model that what happens when a healer is projecting healing to someone, that at some place in the body there is a site where the action occurs to bring about this transmission of energy. And when I looked at Elmer's data, he had 5 pieces of experimental data. He had the voltage on the ear, and he had voltage on 4 walls. One in front, one behind, one above, one below. So 5 equations and 5 unknowns should solve, and so I solved those equations, and I found that for this particular healer, the source, the primary source, was the Dantian point, just below the belly button.
Is our bioconsciousness likened to a living computer system, having its own power supply, memory, feelings, and the ability to transmit information?
Well, imagine that you yourself have been designed, evolved, to be the most positively brilliant quantum level computer processor, solution generator, ever evolved, designed, devised on planet Earth. The huge problem is that over the course of us growing up, most of us have taken on a whole series of computer viruses. So imagine that within yourself you might have as many as 100 major viruses, which are clogging the ability of that computer to function at its most brilliant levels. But on the other hand, imagine if you could learn to clear that processor to the point where it would begin to totally hum, in tune with the quantum field, at such a level of openness and vibratory awareness that it would actually begin to function at the level that it was truly designed to function at.
What we found is that the frequencies in that field, the electromagnetic energy and the frequencies that are in the radiation from the heart, actually change depending upon what we are feeling. Our emotional state influences changes in that electromagnetic signature. For instance, if we're feeling a strong negative emotion like anger or frustration, it creates what researchers call an incoherent spectra in that electromagnetic field. Lots of different frequencies fighting for power. The pattern looks very jagged and irregular, kind of like you'd see if you were looking at a pattern of an earthquake. And we see that kind of electromagnetic signature again when people are feeling these negative emotions. The good news is that we see a completely different kind of feel when people are feeling positive emotions. You know, really heart-based emotions, emotions that have long been metaphorically associated with heart. For instance, if we're feeling real genuine appreciation or sincere care or real compassion, what we see in that field is what's called a harmonic spectra. The frequencies are now working together. They create what's called a harmonic sequence. They're not fighting for power, they're supporting one another. And all these changes occur because of what we do as human beings. The emotional qualities that we are bringing to life affect that field. Now you take that a step further. The field surrounds us in 360 degrees. We're broadcasting that energy, first of all, to our own bodies, but we're also sending it out into space. So in a sense, we are communicating our emotions through an electromagnetic field produced by the heart. So there's a lot more research to be done on this because now we've moved beyond biology into physics. Now we're into electromagnetic fields. How do these fields affect one another? How do they affect each other? These are all interesting questions that we have ongoing research to come up with definitive answers for. And I think it's just the beginning. I think that what we're measuring is some of the densest energy produced by the heart, and that there's another subtle energy component of heart that's far more powerful, far more interesting, and that radiates far beyond just a few feet. And all that will be discovered in the next few years.
Of all the energy centers of the body, the heart center produces the strongest signal. With heart disease being the world's #1 cause of death, and the heart center being the main broadcast power center of the body, we have to nurture and respect it as if our lives depend on it. If we intend to send out a signal to attract a response, and our central power source is damaged, we will be sending out a weak signal. And the question is, do the magnetic laws of attraction hear a weak signal? While we are living at one location on the earth, and the people we want to meet may be in another, how can we communicate with our future soul matches through the field?